Matthew E. Taylor is the sound editor for the Apple comedy series Mythic Quest. I'm Matt Noble of Gold Derby, and I wanted to ask you, Matt, what do you think is the most quintessential sound of Mythic Quest?
Oh, that's a good one to open up with.
Yeah.
I would have to think the most quintessential sound is fairly straightforward, but the one I think of initially is the Mythic comms, which is the video chat they use, and it's just a really simple sound. It's a blink, but I remember that being a real thing we kind of dialed in during the episode for quarantine. So that's the one that always comes to mind.
Did you have to make sure like that sound was like different from other like messaging sort of sounds? Did you need to come up with your own thing? Like,
Yeah, well, obviously it's an Apple show, and
yeah,
so we have sometimes we have to adhere to what Apple sounds come out of, you know. So we had to
makes
kind
sense.
of stay within a realm of a sound that was like, oh, it feels like a messaging app, but it doesn't sound like FaceTime or Zoom or any of that other stuff. So yeah, it needed to kind of, and hopefully it works. It feels like it needs to kind of say, hey, I'm here, I'm a message. you
Yeah.
know?
I think it did. I think it did.
Good.
What do you what so but what was the what sort of has been sort of the trickiest thing for you to sort of edit the sound for in this sort of 2 season run of Mythic Quest?
It's funny. Being the sound supervisor, I also have a dialogue editor and effects editor that help out as well. I think honestly, the trickiest thing was probably Everlight. It feels like because that was just for this show, a very busy episode. So I think dialing in the overall, I think the opening animation, because Rob and Megan had a very specific vision about how they wanted that to sound. So I think, as far as difficulty goes, I think it was just trying to find what they wanted, and they wanted a really light touch in that for sound in that opening. Complemented story, but don't don't go throw the kitchen sink at it.
Yeah. And with a show like this where there are so many different sort of elements in terms of sort of video game animations and web chats and interoffice drama and all these sorts of things. How do you juggle sort of all the different balls of the show from a sound perspective?
That's a good question. I mean, I think generally the show, it lives within the office space mostly. And
Mm.
so over the course of season one and definitely into season two, we kind of, for lack of a better word, carved out the sound of the office where there's not a lot of talk and it's mostly just people working. Um, so it's mostly finding the right moments when within the show because we're always, especially season one, we're always in the office. So finding the right moments when that office can live a little bit, so we can feel the office, and then there's moments where hey, let them talk. The office is just a background thing; it doesn't need to be a character here. But then you have episodes with episode, gosh, was it six backstory? I might have the episode number wrong with CW's backstory, which is a totally different thing, where we kind of went with a light film noir vibe, sort of, 1970s LA. And a lot of that balancing has to do with interacting with Rob and Jeff Louini and Megan and just kind of figuring out how do they want this to sound. And they always have an opinion to share now, which is huge and goes a long way.
Mm. Yeah, like, and I guess that's important, like, as a series that they're sort of touching with all the different creative elements. So there's some sort of like through line and consistency that runs through sort of the creative elements of the show.
Yeah.
Um, what do you what you've worked on other series. What
Mhm.
makes this series different from other shows you've worked on as a sound editor?
Boy, how do you say that without getting in the hot water? No, I'm just kidding. What makes it different is um, it's a smaller show as far as crew. Like it feels like a little bit of a tighter unit. I'm kind of the odd person out. A lot of these people have been working together for a long time on Sunny, so they all kind of know each other. Um, so I kind of came in and kind of had to kind of figure fit into that mold. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to think. Um, do you remind me again one more time of the question because I had a thought, but I was trying to see
Yeah.
where I was going to go with it.
Yeah. Right. So like I guess yeah, so yeah, I'll just ask you like sort of what's different, not necessarily better
Yeah, yeah,
about Mythic Quest, though could be
yeah.
better. But like
Sorry,
it
I
just
was thinking. Yeah,
yeah.
so I was thinking about that. What's different, really, I think, is from all the other shows. I mean, I think Rob has a very distinct vision, and kind of gives us a guideline, but then also trusts us. It feels like he really trusts us to go ahead, figure out what we want to do. Like, for instance, Everlight, the ending battle sequence, he was just like, go for it. Do a cut, send it to me, let me see. He really had some input, but he kind of wanted to see what we brought to the table. And there's an element on that on every show, but I think Rob, what's really great about Rob is he really, he hires you and relies on you, which is great.
What do you have like a favorite episode of the show? It might not be from necessarily your work on it, but just like an episode that you've seen and thought, oh, that's something special about that one.
Oh, that's tough. You know what? I feel like episode 105, Dark Quiet Death, that
Mm,
one came out of nowhere. I loved it. Um, the one with Blood Ocean was great because I just had a lot of fun. And I think backstory too. I really like what the show is doing, where they kind of jump out of the timeline, so to say, of the Office and kind of investigate other stories that are related to this show. So I think backstory and A Dark Quiet are my favorite as far,
mm, yeah.
one from each season, I suppose.
Oh, nice. What have you learnt from this experience on the show?
Learned, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think for me personally, I mean, I'm always learning new things editorially.
Mm,
Um, but I think for me personally, it's always about client interaction and management. And I think each show for me is just kind of an improvement upon trying to read the client and the showrunner and the showmakers to kind of help understand what they want and how me and my crew can interpret what they want and hopefully bring that to their show and add to their show and not take away from it. So that's what I can't say it's like one thing, but it feels like that's a skill that I'm always trying to improve upon.
yeah. This is a series that has some pretty absurd moments and can get like pretty crazy at times. Is there something that you sort of putting the sound together for and you just think, I cannot believe we're doing this?
Can it be from season one or has it be
Yeah,
from
of
season two?
course. Yeah.
Okay. I think Blood Ocean. I mean, that was just. I mean, that's the one that always comes to mind first. Is these video game characters who get infected with a virus that you got to come up with the sound for them. Basically, every orifice has fluid coming out of it, and the vocals. So yeah, I think that was one where we were just like, wow, okay, this is awesome. That it was really a lot of fun. Oh, and of course, I mean, dare I say it, the Nazi episode with the carrot where they find out there's a contingent of white supremacists on the game and they have to eliminate them. And that was like, okay, we're going there. Awesome.
Oh man. Uh, Now you we're an awards website at Gold Derby, and you won the Emmy Award for sound editing for Barry a couple years ago. What was it like to win that Emmy? In order to talk us through sort of that experience of that night.
Oh gosh, that feels like through the pandemic. It feels like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was. it's just kind of crazy. I mean, you win. It's I mean, you're I'm filled with pride because obviously there's a lot of people work on that show. I feel very tight with Bill and Alec, the show runners. And they have a lot to do with the sound of that show. So I was just really happy because I know for that episode, a lot of people put a lot of heart and soul into that. The night of, it's kind of a blur in a sense because you win the award. Sean Heisinger, who was the co-supervisor on that
Mm.
show, he spoke, which was cool. And then you go backstage, and next thing you know, it's a year later, and you're like, "Wow, that actually happened."
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very. The category was stacked too. It was like it feels like it was a hard. It was very competitive. So I was shocked, but also happy that our peers decided to vote for us.
Yeah. And it's like sort of you talk about how like something that's great about Mythic Quest is the sort of these departure episodes, and in a sense you won for Barry for a departure episode as well from that series, or one that sort of was very contained and a bit different to other episodes they've done, that Ron Lily episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You never know.
yeah. Well, when a showrunner gives you stuff outside the box, the writers give you something outside the box, often that work, if it works, gets noticed.
For sure. And I feel like that especially worked with the quarantine episode for this. It came out of the blue, wasn't expected. It worked for a dark, quiet death like that. That was highly well received, and I think it
Mm,
worked for Everlight as well. I mean, this show
yeah,
especially is kind of establishing that as their mode. It's like every couple of episodes is going to be one that's kind of a right turn, a good
yeah.
right turn.
Mm. And how do you, like, as someone in the sound department, when you get that right turn, when you get that script, or when Rob tells you or whatever, when you find that out, what sort of goes through your head? Is it sort of excitement, or are you daunted? Like,
I think it's kind of like a four-step thing. It's like excitement, and it's like, oh, this is daunting. Oh, and then you're inspired, and then it becomes like, okay, problem solving. And by problem solving, I mean like, what do we need to record? What new stuff do we need to make? Stuff like that. But initially, I'd say it's very much excitement, and I think following quickly on the heels of excitement is inspiration. It feels like.
mm. what do you what's your favorite thing about the series of Mythic Quest?
This is going to sound campy, but
Yeah.
I think it's working with everybody. It's such a really cool working relationship that I really look forward to working with Diego and Sam and Peter and Sean and Rob and Jeff and everybody and Steve and all of the editors because they all bring something and they all feel very invested, and so that's a real joy to come back and work. But then also just working on the show and laughing because it's nice
Mm.
to work on a comedy that is a really good comedy and just laugh and watch the show and have fun.
What's the funniest thing for you? What was the funniest thing in season two?
Uh, I think Snoop saying "What up, Bert?" when he talks to Brad in on the mocap stage. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of funny moments. I mean, Joe's whole character arc is really funny. Um, but I just think randomly out of nowhere, hearing Snoop just call Brad Burt is just so good. I laughed at it every time. I'm sure there's another moment too, but that for me, that one pops right in my mind right away.
Yeah, it's funny how sometimes the smaller sort of moments and lines can be the funniest. Like,
Yep, yep,
yeah.
yep.
And I guess, like, you know, sort of does sound, you probably have to like sit through some of these jokes a lot as you're going over and over scenes to lay sound in them and like figure out what's going to work the best, right?
Yeah, and well, and that's the thing I think that's funny about the show is like I don't think there's anything that gets old. Like, you watch, you work on an episode for us it's about a week to a week and a half, and on other shows maybe jokes might be like okay, but by this one never gets old. Like there's all the jokes are good.
Yeah. How often do you reckon you'll see like the average joke on Mythic Quest before you can sort of say goodbye to it?
The average joke, gosh, I don't
Yeah.
know. 2 weeks. I don't know. I watch
Yeah.
the episode airs, and I'm happy to watch them when they air
Mm,
because I still laugh. So
yeah. It must be nice to be able to watch the whole episode and not be sort of pausing and stopping to put stuff in and things.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What is like with your role on the show, what are the sort of things you're responsible for doing that people might be unaware of that sort of happen?
Yeah, good question. I mean, for me, it kind of changes a little bit from show to show, but there's an overall kind of framework. Um, Basically, I am the figurehead of the post sound department. So I meet with the clients, we spot the show, and we talk about it, and they kind of give me their idea for the vision for the series, for the show, etc. I then communicate that to the rest of the post sound crew, be it the Foley crew, effects editor, dialogue, mixers, generally, and then I kind of help bring the crew together to help kind of organize them editorially on the show. And then my role on this show in particular, because there's usually ADR is a very like client forward, face forward thing. I'll oversee queuing all that, cutting all that, the group, shooting the group, recording the group. In this show in particular, I recorded the group at home because of COVID and all that stuff. So we had a remote, we did group remotely from home, as well as some ADR from actors' home as well, which I just logged in and recorded here. Um, and that's basically it. Then I'll review the sessions, give notes, whatever, cut some stuff myself for effects if needed. Like on Everlight, I will jump in. I'll do vocal design and stuff, as well. And then I'll go to the stage virtually this year and kind of help guide the mix. But Sham and Diego know this show so well. I don't, I trust them, and they can go ahead and do their thing, and we'll chat and check in and talk creatively about the show. So basically, overall, just kind of overseeing the entire post sound process and helping that move along.
Mm. And finally, Matt, what do you think the most special thing is about this series for audiences?
Hmm. I think relatable characters. It feels like to me like there's a character in here for everyone, but also season two in particular, I think tackles a little bit of post pandemic, so to say, in their universe, but also tackles human human issues as well, especially CW's arc. So for me, I feels like the most special thing is just finding characters that you can relate to and really kind of attach yourself to their journey.
Mm. Well, Matt, thanks so much for talking to us today. You can, if you're watching this interview, go to goldderby.com where you can make your own awards predictions, join discussion in our feisty forums, or watch other interviews with award contenders. And Matt, all the best of luck with the upcoming Emmy Awards and with the rest of Mythic Quest coming out.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.